Lots of people overlook stock plugins like the ones we have in Cubase, especially when mixing vocals. So I decided to try something out, to pick only 5 of my favorite Cubase plugins to create a full vocal chain, including delay and reverb. And that is by putting aside the vocal-specific plugins we have in Cubase, like VoxComp and VocalChain. And once you hear what those plugins I chose can do, you might never skip them again. Now, when I took the time to choose several of my favorite Cubase plugins to build that vocal chain up, I made sure they covered the following. First, tonal balance, like EQ. Dynamic control, like compression, de-essing. Saturation. Space, like delay, reverb, and doublers. Now, picking the right plugins for that purpose wasn't that easy. Now, while you're watching this video, let me know which plugins would you choose if you had to pick only 5 Cubase plugins to create your own vocal chain. Okay, now let's have a quick listen to the vocal I'm gonna work on today.
Give it all to find you. I need to find a place to run to.
So this is actually a very good vocal recording. Now, the first plugin I'm going to use is an EQ. And the one on the list is the top EQ in Cubase, and it's called the Frequency 2. So the way I'm going to use Frequency is as a subtractive EQ mainly, okay? Which means that I'm just cutting out some frequencies that are overloading the vocal sound before I hit the compressor. So I have a high pass filter, a bit of cut in the low mid section. I also tamed down the high mids, it was just a bit too aggressive. And I also use frequency as my first de-esser, because frequency also is a dynamic processor with dynamic EQ, which is awesome. So every EQ nodes can be converted into a dynamic EQ, which is great. So I'm using the 2 last bands as dynamic EQ to be used as a de-esser. So I have a very narrow peak filter and also a high shelf that I use again as a de-esser.
Give it all to find you. I need to find a place to run to.
So when I have some T's and S's,
even if I take a lifetime,
this is going to take care of them. Okay, so this is going to be my first de-esser inside plugin number 1. Okay, so I'm using this first plugin as a regular EQ and as a dynamic controller, as a de-esser. The second one on the list is my compressor, and it's going to be the Black Valve, which is an amazing tube type compressor. Very, very colorful, warm at the same time. And it actually works well on lots of styles of vocal recordings. And this compressor was the perfect fit for this vocal. And the cool thing is that on top of using it as a compressor, I also use it as a saturator, because it has a very cool drive knob that is going to add some saturation at the preamp level. So before the signal goes into the compression, which is quite cool. So let's overdo it.
To find you. I need to find a place to run to.
And there's the peak reduction.
Even if I take a lifetime, nothing left to lose. Yes, I know you're worth it, though I know I don't deserve it. I'm looking for a way to have you.
Lots of character, very nice vibe to that vocal. So I'm going to keep it this way. And my third plugin, which is my first one, okay, that I repurposed into the third processor. So I'm still at 2 plugins. Nothing stops me on using one plugin more than once. And this one is, again, frequency. And this time around, this comes after compression to enhance some frequencies. So a bit of top end at 20K to get some nice air out of the vocal, a bit of boost on the highs at 5K. And the rest is all dynamic once again to add a bit more tonal control, basically, to keep that vocal smooth and also clear, okay? With some control on the low mids, a bit on the high mids also, and a bit of a boost at 100 Hertz just to keep the vocal a bit more full and fat.
Give it all to find you. I need to find a place to run to. And even if I take a lifetime, nothing left
but
to lose.
most of it is in dynamic mode, okay? And also, I forgot to mention, but there's also a second De-Esser with this little guy here in dynamic mode with a very narrow cue. And again, it only focuses on the S's and T's.
I need to find a place to run to.
That's perfect. This is what I have so far.
Give it all to find you. I need to find a place to run to. And even if I take...
Perfect. Now I have a very nice, clear, stable vocal, okay? Next is going to be to add some ambience, space around that vocal. First, I'm going to use a slapback delay, and for this one, let's go with the studio delay, new in Cubase 14, and this one is amazing. It's a very cool tap style delay. It has lots of control, lots to work with, modulation to the delay, some distortion if you want to, even reverb. So there's a lot you can do with this one. I'm using it as a slapback delay, so my feedback is down to 0. Even my spatial, let's bring that one a bit more narrow, and let's check what I have here.
Give it all to find you. I need to find a place to run to. And even if I take a lifetime,
all right, so that is going to work pretty well for a nice slapback delay with the studio delay. Now, for my reverb, I'm going to use Reverence, which is one of the best Cubase plugin. This one is a impulse response type of reverb, and I love plate reverbs on a vocal. So let's go with this one.
Give it all to find you. I need to find a place to run to.
Nice.
And even if
just to add a bit of tail.
A lifetime, nothing left to lose.
Now I want to keep my vocal up front. Usually I'm going to add a bit of pre-delay, but in this case, I don't feel like I need to add pre-delay. You know, the vocal stays quite up front, and the reverb adds a nice tail to it. Now, something I could have done to bypass Reverence, okay, and only work with 4 plugins, is to go back to my slapback delay. And instead of using Reverence, I could have used the reverb straight from that delay.
Give it all to find you. I need to find a place to run to. And even if I take a lifetime.
So that could have been a good option also. The reason why I decided not to do it, because if I use a reverb, I like my reverb to be very wide, okay? But I also like my slapback delay to be a bit more narrow. So just to have more control on the reverb, this is why I decided to go with Reverence for that matter. And of course, you know, with Reverence, it's kind of a no-brainer. It's just so great. Now, the next one on the list is in a case where I want to add a bit more width to my vocal sound, okay? Usually I'm going to record the same vocal line more than once, maybe a couple of other times, and pan those extra recordings left and right, and blend that with the original signal. When I'm in a situation where I don't have access to those recordings, I'm going to use a plugin to add a bit more width to my vocals. And in Cubase, we have a plugin called Cloner. And this one is inserted in parallel on an effects channel track to the lead vocal. And honestly, it's a good fit for a lead vocal. Okay, just again to enhance a bit of that stereo width. So let's try it out. I'm gonna actually bring down the reverb and delay.
Give it all to find you.
There you go.
I need to find a place to run
now,
to.
This type of plugin and this type of effect, in my book, unless you're working on a special effect, is not meant to be heard that much. It's more kind of an effect you want to feel more than hear.
Give it all to find you.
Now, if I bypass it,
I need to find a place to run to. And even if I take a lifetime,
let's bring back the reverb,
nothing left to lose,
and the delay.
Yes, I know you're worth it.
Now, on top of that, since Cloner is on its own effects channel track, after Cloner, I added a second instance of Black Valve to overcompress Cloner. Okay, and there you go.
give it all to find you.
On its own.
I need to find a place to run to.
So it's dark, it's overcompressed, but when you blend it with the vocal, it works very, very well. Those are my 5 plugins. And you know what? I'm actually going to reuse Studio Delay for vocal throws. Okay, and what I did on this one, because there's several ways you can use vocal throws in your DAW. In my case, I just created an audio channel and copy-paste only the lines I want to add delay on. So this is basically what a vocal throw is. So the Studio Delay in this case has a more wide sound, okay, so the spatial is a bit higher, more feedback going, I need some repeats. I even have some reverb on the delay, some distortion, some modulation. So if we listen to that delay on its own, only on that word here, that's so cool. And the modulation is actually a flanger. Listen to this. I'm gonna overdo it. Actually, I think I'm gonna keep it that loud. If I blend this with the rest of the vocal.
Nothing left to lose.
I love vocal throws in the mix, and Studio Delay, honestly, is one of my favorite delays. Okay, and it's a stock plugin in Cubase.
Give it all to find you. I need to find a place to run to. And even if I take a lifetime, nothing left to lose. 'Cause I know you're worth it, though I know I don't deserve it. I'm looking for a way to have you, 'cause you can have it all. Won't you take me home?
As you can hear, this plugin combination as a VocalChain did the job pretty well. Now you need to watch this video if you want to know more about these Cubase mixer features, and I'm pretty sure you're not working with most of them. Until next time, take care and see you.